Hey, this is Bobby Gustafson from Satans Taint, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
Brutally Delicious!
His name is Bobby Gustafson.
Okay.
The name of his band is Satans Taint, which is a great name just to begin with.
Yeah.
And he was in Overkill for years, and then there was some sort of disgruntledness or whatever. But he's actually he just did the voice for David Ellefson's book from Megadeth.
Oh wow!
I've been doing a bunch of research. Yeah, I've been doing a bunch of research. They recorded the record at the power station in New York.
Really?
I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah.
That it's not the power station anymore, though. It's
Avatar.
No,
or maybe it went back.
No, it's not Avatar anymore either. It's the same room. It's the same everything, but what's that music school? Berkeley.
Oh, they took it over?
They took it over, yeah.
So here's a funny quick story, and then I'm going to go make a hamburger before we start the next one. But
that sounds good.
I got Rory his gig at the power station 25, 30 years ago.
Were you working
So I was working at the Hit Factory.
Fuck me.
That's where I started at the Hit Factory, and then I went over to Soundtrack, and I was assisting, and then eventually engineering for all that rap stuff that I did back in the 80s and late 80s, early 90s. And they called me from the power station, and they're like, hey, do you want to come work here? And I had just started getting some engineering stuff with Bernard Bell, who did like Michael Jackson and some other stuff. And I was like, shit, it's the power station. It's definitely a bigger name than Soundtrack, but I finally got like my little foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I called up Rory, who was actually my assistant, and also he was sort of an intern at the front desk and whatever. And I know he had experience going to school at, some audio school or whatever.
Yeah.
And he got in there, and man, he took off. He ended up working with some of the best, like Aerosmith and AC/DC and Maiden.
Oh yeah.
Well, one day he called me from Paris, and he's like, I'm fucking working with Maiden. I go, get the hell out of here. And he's like, no, I'm serious. And the next day, via Federal Express from Paris, I got this signed bass drum head by everybody in the band that's hanging in my studio out back. And I'm like, fuck, I'm the metalhead, dude. I'm the guy who should be working with all that shit. And I'm doing, Cool Mo D or some bullcrap. But so it kind of didn't work out as planned, but it is what it is.
Oh man, that's a fucking cool story. Those rooms are so iconic, man.
Yeah, you know what? The Hit Factory, those rooms are amazing, and now it's condos.
Did you see?
Dude, I used to work in the room that John Lennon had his 8068 in, and they had pictures of him all over the walls. I mean, that's where he used to record all his stuff.
Fuck. And do you see they're selling those condos? Like, I think they even put like a music studio in the basement to try.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
It should have been named a historic building, really.
Oh, I think so. And those buildings, that basement used to have the old plates. Like before there was all that digital stuff, we used to have to go down there and fucking tune those massive plates that hung like off the chains from the ceiling in the basement.
The old EMTs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Which EMT was it? Do you know?
I don't even remember anymore, but I was an intern at the time. And I used to have to go down there and help the techs, tune them or do whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
But they had a whole room in the basement. There was probably like 6 or 7 of them hanging.
Fuck, amazing. Man.
Yep, that was a nice place.
Oh yeah. I miss big room recording. I really do. There's something special about sitting in a room that is like you go to it and it's made just for that purpose.
And has a history, like you're sitting in the same spot that, like Bob Claremont sat in or any of those guys, Tom Lord Alge or any of those guys would be like, holy fuck.
Yeah, that's the same as it feels when you go into Little Mountain in Vancouver. You walk in.
I imagine.
You walk in and you're like, holy fuck, this is where Bob Rock used to make coffee for Bruce Fairbairn.
Right, it's like holy ground. Right.
Yeah. Like Bob Rock, he was a freaking rock star. He was in the Payolas, huge ass fucking band in Canada. And he wanted to be a recording engineer. They started him off making coffee and cleaning toilets. He's like, I'm a fucking rock star. They're like, yeah, but you got to learn.
Well,
that's crazy.
Luckily, I know a bunch of people that went to like all these schools and did whatever. I just got a job as an intern straight out of high school and ended up working at the Hit Factory. And I mean, we were cleaning Troy's he'd bring his Ferrari into the freight elevator like once a week, and it was like me and 3 guys. Like, how the fuck am I learning about audio here? And he's like, hey, you missed a spot on the rim there. What the hell, dude?
I've done that.
Yeah, but I guess you gotta pay your dues somehow, and they know it and they take advantage of it, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore. Now that we have stuff like my room here, people don't want to do interning anymore.
No.
There's actually, I fear that there's going to be a huge loss in the audio engineering art form coming up, because there tends to be, like, people go to school for audio, but generally speaking, the most successful people might go to school, but they don't really learn what they need, like how to be an engineer, until they're out and they start working with someone that is.
Like Michael Beinhorn when we talked to him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be a huge loss in the art form. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a positive thing. Maybe something new will come out about it. But for me personally, like I came up and I had a recording place at my house. I didn't know what to do, like a little digital 8-track or whatever. And then I met my friend Ken, who is part of the 70K crew now. And Ken is a really successful engineer, super successful, tons of gold records, been nominated for a Grammy, the whole kit, kat, and caboodle. And he brought me in, and the first thing I had to do, make coffee.
Yep.
And then he brought me into the studio, and he showed me, okay, this is an old API. Let's take a look at this. Is a split console. Here's how it works. But if you run it in this way, it sounds totally different than if you run it in this way. And even though the theory says to do this, you don't necessarily have to. And then he taught me about mics, and, we had like classic microphones, classic Neumanns, and,
Yeah.
There's a C12 at the studio, a C12A, worth about $25,000.
Yeah, I mean, the Hit Factory had like a whole closet of U47s with the old power supplies.
Yeah. Those mics, though, some days they sound good, some days they don't. You never know what they're going to sound like. I love people that say, man, I always use a U47. My question is, which one?
Right.
Every day
and they have to warm up in the room, and they have to get conditioned to the room, and all kinds of weird shit. But,
yeah. And then,
but when they're on, they're on. I mean, I remember I was doing a Paul Simon Rhythm of the Saints. I was an intern on that thing, and that was his go-to mic, and he had to. So when I say
just stop. So you worked on Rhythm of the Saints?
Yeah, as an intern. I used to have. Do you watch Seinfeld at all?
Yeah.
All right. So here's a funny story. Remember they went to the Soup Nazi?
Yeah.
So that guy is real. And when I was working on the Paul Simon session, besides setting up and doing all the stupid shit that I had to do, every day I had to get out and go to the Soup Nazi guy and stand online for Paul Simon. And I forgot who his engineer was at the time. But then they also did Ladysmith Black Mambaza, I think it was called.
Okay.
And so that was like the choir that he had. But he also did produce them as well, and we did a whole bunch of shit with them. But yeah, I worked with him as the intern for, I don't know, however long that record was.
My God. Well,
I actually moved. This is a funny story. The first thing I ever did at the Hit Factory, I get the job on like a Friday, like, hey, come on in, we'll see you Monday. Monday I get there, lady gives me some money for a cab. She's like, I need you to go to this address and just help the guy out with whatever he needs to do. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. So I jump in the cab, I go up to Central Park West somewhere, and I get out. And I walk up the steps, and it's fucking Donald Fagen. And he's standing in front of a U-Haul, like, honestly, he's like, hey, I just need help moving, and I'm renting this apartment while I'm doing the record at the Hit Factory. And they just sent a couple interns up there, and there we are, like, moving furniture for Donald Fagen. I think his engineer was, like, Gary Katz back in the day.
My God. So much history in New York with music, it's not even funny. Like,
oh yeah,
my God. Hello.
Hey, Chris. There you are, Chris. Meet Bobby, Chris.
Hey, Bobby. How you doing, man?
First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time, because I'm going to date myself, but I'm an old school fan back from Lemoore in like the early '80s.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, I grew up going to Lemoore. I'm from Valley Stream out on Long Island, but grew up going to Lemoore. So you guys all the time there.
Oh yeah. I used to jam with a couple guys from Valley Stream after Overkill.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
Garden City.
Yeah, I lived right by that Valley Stream Mall there, the Green Acres Mall.
We used to go to the smoke shop all the time.
Yeah. So nice to finally meet you. It's very cool.
Same here, man.
You want us to take the lead?
No, I'll let you go.
I'm going to go. So,
Well, just before I let you go, because I can see you're drooling a little. I'm in this podcast. I got involved in this podcast because I'm not as versed in the world of metal as Bruce is. And it's kind of a recent discovery for me, like maybe over the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years. And this podcast is really exposing me to a lot of great fucking music. So, okay, Bruce, you're good to go.
So I guess let's start with, I have a list of questions, but let's start with Satan's Taint. How long has that been, your project, and how did it come about?
I started about 2014, just talking to kids on Facebook all the time, and they wanted to hear new music. They're like, "Why don't you get back into it again?" And just being pushed from the old fans. They're like, "I really want to hear the old style stuff," and you shouldn't be sitting around doing nothing. So I had some material left over. I put it together, did a couple songs, grabbed a couple friends, and put it together. We put it out on TuneCore, but it really didn't go anywhere. So we said, well, let's take them songs back. I'll write 5 new ones. We did 5 new ones and put them together and basically made the first full CD. And then we manufactured it ourselves and released it. Not knowing that it was going to really take off. It was just, I figured a few Facebook friends and some fans, and that was it. But it took off really well and got us to the point where, we got the interest from Megaforce again.
Right. I think it's really cool because people like me, we're hardcore fans. And the minute I got the email from, I think it's Jamie, who your press guy is, I was like, shit, I want on that right away. Cause I remember seeing them, back before Feel the Fire. So I'm totally a fan.
That's the same thing with some of the other people, that they're just not hearing the music that they want from some of these newer bands and younger bands. And they really wanted the stuff that they grew up on.
The old school fans like me, like you said, we're itching to hear some of the stuff we grew up on, especially, I'm so connected to that L'Amour era, that whole thrashy, punky sort of thing. So it's really cool. And I guess you're having that reaction from your fans as well, right?
Yeah. They, like you said, they just wanted to, I guess, reminisce or something. And they really weren't satisfied with maybe some of the bands that are out now that just don't capture that old school feel. And, I had a bunch of material left over that I never got to use. I held on to, so I wound up going back, grabbing some of the old style stuff and giving it some of the new twists. And I think it really came up with something really good on the second one. The first one's been out now for about two years, I think, already.
Right. So you were out of the business for a while. I know you did a couple things like the Cycle Sluts and some other things in and through. But how did it feel to finally get back into doing this and getting like the response you're getting?
I'm excited. I'm like, especially to go back to Megaforce, which was where it all began. It's a different label now with Missy Colazzo owning it than we have with John and Marsha.
Right.
But she's excited about it. I'm excited about it. The material, when it was coming together, we just me and my drummer, I had this stuff written, and I'd come down and show him, and we'd rehearse it. And we did everything real quick, but we realized it's wow. Even the guys in the studio at the power station were like, we can't pick a favorite song. It's every time you do a new song, it's our new favorite song. And I said, we said the same thing when we were putting it together. It's we couldn't nail it down. And it's just one of those things where everything just went really well, and we're excited about it. So I just think that this one's going to really satisfy the old fans. If that's what they were looking for, they definitely have the old sort of, the old Overkill me, I guess you would say.
Yeah. It's definitely Overkill you, but still, you in the present day as well, because I think you've separated from them. How did you get into the power station, though? That's a pretty big place to do the record.
Yeah, actually, I had a friend who did some AC work, a drummer friend of mine, and he's just a great guy. And he's like, look, don't even pay me. When we had a problem with the first CD, one of the bits got chopped from the first studio, and he didn't want to fix it. So my friend George knew about it. He's like, "Look, I'll fix your AC. Go and fix Bobby's song for nothing." So
Oh, that's awesome.
they fixed the song in about 5 minutes. I mean, I had 2 weeks of arguing with the other engineer that he screwed it up, and he said he didn't. So they straightened it out, and it came out great. So then we just had a good relationship with them. And I said, look, I says, I'm probably going to write another CD. And I said, when I do, I promise to come back here. And they were real excited about it. And they were more than happy to do it with us.
That's awesome.
I was excited because to me, I like to record the old way with a big board. You set up, you play. And that's what I think gave the first CD its kind of raw, old style edge, is that's the way we were doing it. It's not like you played the riff once and just had the computer repeat it.
Right.
I mean, we went in and nailed it. I mean, Jim did his drums in 2 days.
Wow.
Like all the songs, and I did my rhythm guitar tracks, like 48 tracks of guitar, like in 2 days.
Holy shit.
So, we just went in and nailed it. And then, it just has that old school feel.
So Chris and I have this. Chris, I promise I'll let you talk here in a second.
Cool.
I'm hogging all Leah, but Chris and I have this conversation with a lot of the artists that we talk to on the show, and I always lean towards what you just said, doing it the old school way, banging it off each other in the room on the front of the big boards, and I think it makes it sound so much more immediate and organic, and it's just great.
Yeah, and then the newer bands that don't do that, it sounds sterile. It sounds too. It's just unnatural sounding, and the stuff you grew up on was done that way because we used to have to record it on 2-inch tape, and you really couldn't punch in. If you made a mistake, you had to do the song over.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I remember doing it over and over and over with Rat, just, if there was a little mistake or something here and there, and started with the drums, and then you build it up, you do the bass, then you do the guitar, and, it has a better feel than just putting it straight into the computer. And then a lot of these guys, when they go out and they try and perform those songs, it doesn't come off the right way either. You can't create it that way. You still have to get in a room and sweat it out with the guys and work the parts out.
Amazing. Right. What was it like being in the power station? Like,
it was great.
From a historical point of view, like, did you feel like the vibe of what that room is, or?
Yeah, I mean, we went when we fixed the first CD. He had a smaller board, and he showed me the new board that he was going to have, and that's part of the reason why we went back. He literally had to knock down a wall to get it in the control room, and nice. It's like it takes up the whole room from one side to the other. He had to move a doorway just so you can get in there. So they had this, this great control room. The engineer was phenomenal. It was like, he was on top of everything real quick, and just being a part and looking up and seeing, it's part owned is John Bon Jovi's,
right.
I believe it is.
Yeah, Tony.
So, yeah,
right.
There's some Bon Jovi albums up, and there's an Ozzy album and a Stevie Ray Vaughan Gold album, and you're just sitting around, it's like thinking all the great people that have gone through Power Station. So, but the final result is just amazing. It just sounds it's so thick and so big, and it's exactly what we were trying to go for.
It's awesome. It's such a cool looking room too. Like the vibe in there must have been just unbelievable.
Yeah, I love the studio. I was probably like one of the few guys that really enjoyed being in the studio more than anything else. And we put the hours in too. 12-hour days and stuff like that too. We banged it out quick, but we did a lot of work on it.
Now, did you record a tape, or did you record to Pro Tools? What did you record to?
No, they had a tape machine, but no one really does that anymore, and it's just safer to be on the computer just in case something happens. And then, even the old days, like the stuff that we did on the tapes, it's kind of deteriorating by now. It's not getting you're not getting full quality. So at least with the stuff being digital, we can save it. And it's kind of there forever, so it's a little better. And I embraced it. I embraced when we went from making the vinyl album to the CD. We went through that transition page from the second to third album.
Right.
Yeah.
Is when it really kicked in, which was like 87-ish.
Yeah. I remember then. I remember when CDs first started coming out and they were like $25. I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're extinct.
Yeah, I know. How do you feel about the whole streaming revolution? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's definitely a way to get it out there a lot easier, a lot quicker. You know, I think musicians have a little bit more control over, you know, where their songs go. Before, you were pretty much at the mercy of the label and whoever they had sent it to. The only thing I don't kind of like is I don't think that, you know, it's kind of new for me, but I'm hearing all the rumors that they don't pay their artists as much as they should be. And a lot of people are, you know, frustrated with it. But I mean, that's the mega stars that are getting, you know, these tons and tons of streams.
Right.
You know, we're on the lower end of the spectrum. So for us, it's kind of like, it just makes it more convenient. A lot of people, you know, the first CD we did was strictly CD, and we handled it all ourselves. We mailed them out and everything. And a lot of people wanted it online. And I says, well, you know, I'm not going to be making as much money to record another album if we do it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, they agreed. They said, okay, you know, we'll buy it. So we've made some CDs for the new one, but it's going to be available. Missy had set it up for the streaming and downloading and all that stuff. So that's kind of like a first for me.
Right.
A lot of your fans probably still buy the CD though, especially when you're touring, I would imagine.
Well, they do, yeah, because I asked her about that, and she says, you know, it's the older fans that actually still embrace the CD, because she says, like, Anthrax would sell more CDs, and her other band, Third Eye Blind, is more the younger kids, and they do all the streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, because people like me want the physical. I want the physical thing. I want to go through the liner notes and do all that, where it was recorded, you know, who they're thanking, all that shit.
Yep, I made a point of having the booklet and getting the lyrics on there and making sure, because to me that was the best part too, is, you know, going from either the album with the big dust sleeve or at least having the booklet and seeing some pictures or the lyrics at least.
Right, more of a connection, I think.
Yeah, you need something tangible, you know, to feel that connection.
I actually miss liner notes. I prefer like the new way of taking in music, but like I would have never learned about studios like the Power Station or Little Mountain Sound or Sound City if it wasn't in the liner notes. I wouldn't have learned who my favorite producers are or engineers or you know, I wouldn't have learned any of that stuff.
And now with the internet and stuff, you know, you're looking at these things and you're looking at the studios where the person went to record, you know, and you're finding out that, you know, this producer or that producer has done all these other albums too that maybe you didn't know about. And it's just like you're discovering and you're feeling a better connection to what the band was actually, you know, doing. And for us now, it's like, you know, we take pictures of us working in the studio or putting stuff together at practice and we send them out.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, you never really had that connection before. Everything was paper in the day. You had a paper magazine. So, you know,
you had Kerrang!
Months and months later that stuff would come out that you actually did.
Right.
And now it's just instant.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it plays into the streaming. People like everything right away or exactly when they want it.
Yeah, I agree. Technology is really changing the way we consume things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I personally prefer it, but one thing I miss is that like kind of anticipation for something, you know? That you had before the instant gratification came around. You like maybe there's a new album coming out and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for this to come out." And then you keep hearing about it, you keep hearing about it, and you're just getting psyched. And then Tuesday would come, you could run to the record store and get the new record.
Oh yeah.
You know, I do miss that. Now everything's instant.
I had that same feeling when I was younger when I knew a new Kiss album was coming out. I'm like,
yes.
If I clean my room, could you take me to the mall? You know, go to a record store and
yep.
I bought the new Ace Frehley solo album. I was like, yes. But yeah, now it's just, and even we're trying to spread it out where we had the announcement of signing the Megaforce. We're going to have the pre-sale pretty soon, and you get a song included early. Right. And then, then you do the artwork, and then it's the actual day that it comes out. And then after it comes out, it's kind of like very fast. Everything is really quick. Like you said, it's like, the magazines would come out a couple months later, and you can expand your growth, over time. But now it's everything as soon as the album's out. You got to do this, you got to do that. And it's, the quicker it burns, the quicker it burns out. But that's just the way it is now, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Are you guys going on tour?
We don't have anything lined up yet. We're looking for booking agents right now. Kind of handling everything myself, so it's it's kind of like a spare time weekend type thing, just trying to organize stuff. But we might start it off with just doing some local gigs in Florida.
Right.
Nice.
All right, so I've got a couple more if you don't mind me jumping in, Chris.
Sure. No, please.
So, Bobby, I know you probably addressed this a million times, but name controversy. And I know I saw somewhere you were saying, the band's name like Butcher Babies, stuff way worse. But how do you think that's affecting you at all, or do you even care?
Well, it affected us a little bit because I believe that agency, because of that, didn't want to work with us, which is fine. But I just kind of find it a little hypocritical when you had bands that were similar. And it's like, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but then you know what? They don't really know the music yet or what the band is. They're just going off the name. And to me, that's being prejudiced. You're judging the book by the cover, and if you spent any time around us, you would see that it's tongue in cheek. It's funny. It's serious, but it's not serious. Like I'm 53 years old now. I'm not trying to come up with some band name called Blood Gore. It just sounds
right.
Stupid for me at this point in my life. And I apologize if there's any band called Blood Gore. But,
I'm so offended.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, what? It was kind of like I didn't know the band was going to get this big. I wanted to kind of have a lighthearted name. It made us laugh. I call my fans suckers. They're all taint suckers. It just doesn't need to be so serious. I mean, I didn't enjoy myself that much with the other band because everything was so serious. Right. And I just tried to keep it a little bit lighthearted. And you either love it and get it or you don't like it. So it doesn't bother me. I can't, I'm sure guys in the Butthole Surfers didn't worry that people didn't like their name, It's like if the music is good, then the band is good. And I'm like, I'm not going to put that much emphasis on the name. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to stick with it. And the more people didn't like it, the more I liked it even more. Right. Because the more people kept talking about it. I mean, if I had some sort of vanilla name that no one cared about, you wouldn't even be asking me this question.
Sure.
So it's kind of doing what I wanted it to do.
All right. So doing a little more research, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you did the voice for Ellefson's book. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm going to record it this weekend. He asked me about a year ago. Him and his partner, Thom, asked me if I had pictures and started with pictures. And I had a bunch from the old days when I went and visited him in California. And then he said, why don't you talk to Thom and give him a couple of quotes or, something you remember. So I just kind of rattled off some stuff on the phone, and they actually included all of it in the book. He sent it to me already. So I guess he's getting everyone there's a lot of quotes. So he's going to have people read
their own quotes,
whoever they were. So yeah, I'm going to record it for them, I guess this weekend and send it out. He needs it by next Friday.
Nice. That's pretty cool. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool you kept in touch with all those people as well.
Yeah. I've seen them here and there, and they're all busy and doing their own thing. And, a lot of these guys have families now and stuff. So, we're not running around raging like we used to.
Right. Okay, so the last one I've got, and then I don't know what Chris has, but going to a Satan's Taint show, we talked about you have all the old school fans, but it's got to be pretty cool because a lot of them, probably like me if you were playing here, are going to bring their kids, so you're getting introduced to a whole new generation of. That's got to be pretty cool feeling, right?
Yeah. Wow. I never even really thought about it that way. But yeah, it would be nice if they can get the kids to come to the shows too. I mean, everyone's got. My singer just had a kid. One of the guitar players I play with just had a kid. My drummer's got 2. So it's I guess it's at that age where they're coming around and bringing the young ones. Hopefully they'll get into the metal too.
Yeah, you got the multi-generational thing because I know I make it a point to take my son to go see Slayer and see some of the bands that I grew up with that are still around.
Yeah, I mean it's an experience. I mean I saw Slayer play down here a couple of weeks ago, and just reminiscing about when we used to play, and I'm looking, they're playing the big outdoor arena here, and I'm like, maybe took them 30 years and a farewell tour, but at least they've got the audience that they deserved after all these years, and the show was just great.
Right. Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
I was there.
Chris, you were there with us.
Yeah. That was killer. That was, to be honest, that was one of the first times I'd ever heard Slayer. Like, I knew a few of their songs, but I hadn't really, because I'm kind of new to metal. I grew up on hair metal,
Mm-hmm.
which is like Motley Crue and Poison and stuff.
Be careful.
Yeah, well, we had to open for them back in the day where it's like if they didn't like you, they would throw stuff on you. You know how hard it is to open up for Slayer on the Rain and Blood album?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Man.
People are right in your face. It's like, you better be friggin' good. Oh, shit.
Slayer fans have a reputation for being a bit rowdy.
Perfect. I have nothing else, Chris.
I have nothing else, but thanks for the contribution you made to metal, man. It's
Hell yeah.
It's fucking amazing.
And thank you for sticking with me all these years, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time, brother. Good luck with the record.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys.
All right. Later.
Cheers.
Later.
All right.
Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.